So here we are for another podcast. I'm Chad.Taylor.Psychotherapist and author of It's You, Oh Fuck It's Me. No tips, no fixing, just real conversations. And today this is going to be a solo episode, which is pretty hard to do. But I think most people are aware that this podcast sits behind the book of the same name. I'm not going to bother saying where to find it. If this resonates with anybody and they want the book, I'm sure they'll be able to work out how the fuck to find it. We've all got our phones in our hands. But who I am in a relationship lately is the way I'm going to do these solo podcasts. And it's a lot harder to speak to a screen than it is when I've got a guest, somebody else with me. So a bit of background, Pam was my mother-in-law to one of my first partners, the mother of my eldest daughter, who's 14 now, and we separated when my daughter was 3. There was a lot of resentment there from me and a lot of, I suppose, what we'd call unconscious projection. If I look back, there was a lot of blame. I guess I suppose this is pretty raw and real, which is what I said the podcast was going to be about. I was pretty reactive, right? I definitely wasn't who I am now. And the reason I'm talking about this is I was pretty nasty to Pam. I sent some pretty nasty messages, almost blaming her as the reason why we separated. And I suppose what I wanted to say was that I had to pretty quickly turn around and make an amends for that. I had to pretty quickly do exactly what the basis and the name of this podcast is about. And I had to look at where I thought it was her and, oh, fuck, it's actually me. And for us to turn around now and for her to accept that amends and that apology and also be one of the proponents of buying my book is pretty phenomenal. And I've asked Pam if she'd come on here, and I hope one day she will, because, who better to give you an idea of who I am as a human being than an ex-mother-in-law from a relationship well over a decade ago. And I guess it's hard, right? It's hard to get on here and talk about this stuff, and it's hard. I'm only just relaxing into it now. It's hard to say these deep things, and part of my mind is also wondering, is it okay for me to speak about this? But it's more about my side of the event than theirs. And it shows that there's plenty of people in my world that come to therapy, or people that I've known, family, friends, whoever, that have almost, still hold a grudge on ex-partners or ex-mother-in-laws or ex-friendships, ex-bosses. My classic example in my therapy room of that is I don't really frequent pubs for drinking, but I go into the pub to get some lunch, and I'm up at the bar grabbing my lemon, lime and bitters for me and Sophie, or maybe a couple of extras if my kids are with me. And there's a guy there on the bar stool, and I ask him how his day's going and just being polite. And then he wants to give me the rundown on how his wife left and took half his fucking stuff, and women are this, and I've stayed on my own ever since. And it's a hard conversation, right? And I'm almost thinking this has happened last year or the year before, and I ask him, I'll say, that's pretty sad, mate. Like, when did this happen? And it's met with, I think 1982, which shows how strong that looking out and not looking in can be. We can sit on that bar stool since 1982 telling the same fucking story, and the problem is believing it to be true is what I want to talk about today, is that we tell ourselves these stories and we believe them to be true. And this isn't going to be about fixing, it's just more about how to work through that, how to, I guess, be conscious in these moments where I don't judge. And I don't, because that's me, right? That's me without this work that I do on myself, without a therapist, without having a partner that I can do this work with, without making this work a way of life. That's me on that bar stool about any topic, whether it's the person jumped in front of me at the cafe, whether it's the stop-go man turned the sign around to stop on me as I was driving to work. How fucking dare he do that? It's the person that merged in front of me in the lane. It doesn't really matter what it is. And probably leads me into something that we're doing on this podcast is that the last guest from the previous show leaves a message or a statement or a question for the next show, and Amy's was around judgment. And Amy had left, the next time you think about judging somebody, stop, turn it around and ask yourself that question. Why am I about to judge them? That's it. So I guess even saying this stuff, it's not to judge. I'm not telling these stories and giving real life examples because I'm trying to judge. And it's hard not to judge. It's more about where do I do this and what can I do better? Do I want to be that father that tells stories about back in my day we did it like this? Or do I want to understand why Snapchat streaks are so important to my kids and why certain things that they do is so important to them, likes on Instagram? Like, fuck, I'm trying to market my book at the moment and it's fucking soul destroying. For anyone out there that's made a career out of social media, I take my hat off to you. It's fucking soul destroying. Put this effort in and I might get 7 likes or 13 likes and 4 comments and then scroll past posts, which again, this is my judgment, that have nowhere near the content or the honesty or the rawness, that might have 25,000 likes and 300 reshares and 1,000 comments or 4,000 comments. It's fucking hard. So I guess this podcast is just me. When it's on my own, it's just me speaking openly about what's been going on in my life. Or even going back to that book, sometimes I'm reading my book thinking, fuck, did I actually write this? I probably need to take a bit of my own medicine. What paragraph or line am I reading today? So what I've almost been doing is just grabbing any book off my shelf, including my own, closing my eyes and opening it up to any paragraph and reading on and thinking, okay, do I cognitively know this? Yep. Where do I not live it? Where am I not living this today? Where am I still unconscious? Where am I still fucking up? And that is really, how would my partner describe me for this last week? What did she experience? How did she experience me? What did I say that could have offended her, or the opposite? Sophie and I just got engaged over the weekend. I put a big plan into how I wanted that to happen. And then thankfully, within reason, it panned out and it come off the way that I sort of hoped it would, but also in ways that I hoped it might have been different. How do I deal with that? How do I not set myself up for expectation? There was a part of me that was wondering whether I should have did the whole down on one knee thing, but it's not me. That's not who I am. I'm not that person. What did I avoid in doing that, I guess? I avoided being inauthentic. I avoided, by being authentic is the only thing that I can ever be. Ted, my mentor for a lot of years, used to tell me that. It's about removing these masks and becoming the same person I am with you guys here now, as what I am with Sophie, as what I am with my 2 daughters, Maddie and Zoe, as what I am with my mum, my father, my clients, the people around me, the people that love me. How do I get from A to B? How do I not use this insider's armour? How do I not hide behind awareness and try and put on that mask, right, that's kept us safe since childhood? And what's the cost of that? Well, the cost to me is that nobody gets to know who I am. Nobody really knows the real me because I don't know the real me. When I introduce myself to somebody, it's generally through who I am, as in my job career, who I am as in race or religion, name. And I think I shared that in my first podcast, so I don't want to go too far into it. But this is about, what does this cost me in my relationship? What does it cost me by not being me? It cost me fucking everything. And what would full accountability cost me? It could also cost me everything to the wrong person. So I guess leaving that, I want these to be short and sharp. Someone can listen to them on the way to work. I've got to leave something for the next guest. What is the cost of being fully accountable to yourself and being fully authentic? How does that cost you in your life? And we're going to leave it there. I'll see you next time.